What's going on, guys? This is the Carver Minstrel Banjo kit right here. Comes with a drum hoop, a neck and a dowel to go inside the hoop, a goatskin, and all the accessories you'll need to sort of kit it out. And also I paid for the optional strap kit. So this is really nicely made. Like, the wood is like nicely sort of sanded, no rough edges or anything. I really like this. This head has like a bit of a streak in it. I don't know if that's from I don't know if that's from actually like sanding it down or anything, or just the natural wood, but I like that. It's got a lot of character to it. And it also comes with, oh cool, it comes with an imprint just there. That's pretty cool. So what I've actually done is I've tested a bit of the wood stain I'm going to be using. It's coming out a bit blue in this light, but I've made an ebony stain out of Iron Acetate solution, which I'll show you guys now. Cool, so this Iron Acetate here, this is the Iron Acetate, by the way, not this one. The Iron Acetate basically is wire wool that's been left to soak in white vinegar over a couple of days. If I left it in longer, it would be stronger, but I wanted to keep a little bit of the brown still in the colour, so I get this sort of colour here. And it's just 000 grade wire wool in vinegar, and that reacts with the tannins in the wood and darkens it like that. Also like that. So first things first, I'm going to stain this. And also I'm going to try and sand down the neck a little bit, sort of thin it out here. I have quite girly hands, so I prefer thinner necks, so I'm going to get that done as well. Okay, so the reason I tested the ebony down this little bit of the dowel here is because you actually see this when the banjo is completed, or this bit, for that matter, that much. This basically will go through the banjo and get drilled in, or attached to that little hole there with the screw. So I thought that was a good place to test out my stain. So I'm going to stain the rest now. And with Iron Acetate and vinegar solution, you just wipe off the solution when it gets dark enough for you. So I'm going to do that now. See how it's darkening like pretty much instantly already. That top piece now is getting pretty dark too, which I quite like. Okay, so I've now applied linseed oil. It's brought out a lot of this sort of nice, sort of varying grain there. I've made the head a little bit darker. I've also weathered it a bit with some wire wool and taken down some of the edges here which were a little bit sharp. Those are nice and smooth now. The actual wood's got a nice sort of shine to it from the linseed oil. And I've also tacked the head, the skin onto the head, and now what I've got to do is wait for that to dry so I can put the two together. So another thing I did to customize this banjo is this little strap lock here. When you buy these from Carver Banjos, you can get an optional strap kit that comes with two of these. Each one has one of these little washers here. I decided, instead of doing that, to just use one of these and double up the washers so I don't have to screw the screw in as far into the rim, because if you look there, the screw is coming out a little bit. So what I did instead is I doubled up these washers here and put it here so the strap can go around here, and then I'm going to tie it here instead of attaching the other washer. If you look now, I've got all the strings attached, but because the head's still drying and it's still sort of shrinking, I'm leaving it like this, because then this way I can make the leather tailpiece start bending, which it's supposed to do, and break that in, break the strings in, while also letting the head break in without having any additional tension on it. And I also put a little bit of the iron acetate stain on my bridge here, give it a bit of a darker colour, make it look a bit weathered. I'm really a massive fan of like the weathered sort of dirty look, which is why I used a bit of tea to get these kind of effects here. And I also did the same on the tuning pegs, although it didn't work quite as well, because I think these are maple, and maple doesn't take quite as well to iron acetate because it hasn't got as much tannin content in the wood. But it gave me this really sort of dirty weathered effect, and I'm actually a massive fan of that. I'm really enjoying that a lot. See that one there? That one just looks old and dirty, and that's what I wanted to go for. So all I need to do now is wait for the skin to finish sort of shrinking and drying, and I'm going to try and trim a little bit these bits off here, just some of the like bits that are sticking out a little bit too much, like there. Although I've got to admit, I kind of like the sort of slightly rugged look it's got at the moment. Very 1800s. The oil I used has actually brought out a lot of like the walnut grain underneath the iron acetate stain, and I really like that because it gives it this sort of really nice definition with that brown. It looks even better on the fretboard. And this was just £5 of linseed oil, like £5 worth of linseed oil from B&Q. I'm a massive fan of what it's done to like the texture and the grain of the wood. I didn't put as much here in the scoop, which is why the scoop's sort of quite a lot more uniform compared to the rest, because I wanted to have a little bit of definition between the scoop and the fingerboard. And that little sort of stripe or imperfection in the wood that was there before is still kind of there. It's a bit lighter still, which I'm really enjoying. There's a few little bits of the cloth that stuck to the side of the banjo when I was oiling it, because apparently the lint-free cloth I was using wasn't lint-free, and I have lint stuck to a couple of parts of my banjo. It was all across here. But yeah, now all I've got to do is wait, and then I'll finally be able to play it. Another thing I love about this kit is that it came with quite a few extra tacks in case I ended up bending some of them like I did with that one. So I'm really happy with the extra there, and there was also quite a few extra zip ties for when I, zip tied a head together. I ended up buying zip ties anyway because I didn't think it would come with the zip ties, but it did, and that's really cool. I don't know where the extras have gone. There was there's another one there. There's another one there. But yeah, like the additional parts that comes with like the spares, I think is really cool, because anyone else could just send the bare minimum and say, that's it, that's my budget done. But this kit came with like more than enough to actually get it done competently, and I'm really, really happy with that. And it's a good thing I'm done now, because this iron acetate has turned nasty. Look at that, that is just disgusting. I wouldn't want to paint anything in that. And if you look at all that slime there is just broken down wire wool and iron. Disgusting, man. I think it's because I left it out in the air too much, so too much rust got into it. But that was okay because I was done painting with it at that point. I do want to know what that would do to wood, so now I've got to wash this out somehow. And because this is me and I can't leave anything alone without customizing it for like 10 minutes, I decided to do like some henna on here. That's currently drying at the moment, using one of these henna cones that I got for like 99p, which is pretty cool. Thinking maybe doing something up here, if I can get something to show. If not, I quite like this. It'll be flat once it's dried, obviously. And I tested it, and it'll sort of go like a deep sort of brown, a little bit like this, but more defined, obviously. To be honest, I just fucked up there and had to rub it out. Cool, so I am here now with my finished Carver Minstrel Banjo, and I am very, very, very happy with how this has come out. Obviously the finished product is going to be subjective to who builds it, and like if you don't spend any time on it, it's not going to turn out as good as if you spend a lot of time on it. I have a very short attention span, so I didn't necessarily rush it, but I wanted to get it done as quick as possible so I could start playing it, because I was so eager to after seeing all the videos and stuff online. But you know, even I spent about 3 days making this. So the initial plan was to do it over a week and, you know, really take a lot of time on it. But I found that wasn't really necessary. A lot of the kit was pretty much, you know, good out of the box. And that's the beauty of these kits. You can either assemble it straight out of the box and not do anything to it and still end up with a good banjo. Or you can do what I did and sort of completely sort of change the aesthetic of it. Like, so I did this ebony stain instead of like the stock sort of walnut that it came with. Some people on the Luthier subreddit told me like, were wondering why I'd want to, you know, get rid of a nice colour such as walnut for like an ebony, but it's not that I don't like walnut, it's just that I like darker colours, obviously. So I wanted like a darker sort of colour, but I found that I found a good middle ground with this, because when I put linseed oil on, I ended up with a lot of like these sort of really nice kind of these really nice sort of bits of grain in the wood. I'll just focus that. So I ended up with like a lot of like sort of the wood grain coming through the ebony stain, to sort of give it some accents, which was really nice. The ebony stain didn't work too well on the tuners because they had like I think like some kind of varnish on, so it sort of like affected bits of them, but it didn't affect the rest. But I like that. It's sort of like a sort of, I've sort of given them like a sort of dirty texture to make it look a little bit more weathered and sort of ancient. And I did the same thing here. This edge wasn't necessarily sharp when I got it, but it was like a straight right angle, so I wanted to soften it a little bit. So I took some quadruple zero grade wire wool and just sort of softened down these edges here. And it's sort of, because I did it after the stain and the oil, it's sort of like, it took it back a lot to the initial sort of walnut sort of colour, which I like because it sort of looks a lot more weathered now, and that's what I like relic sort of instrument sounds and stuff. That's why that banjo there has got like holes in the paint, and I've just left them there, and I've sort of smeared a few colours over them to sort of make it look sort of like older. With that, all I did was I scribbled on it in Sharpie in different colours and just sort of smeared it around with my thumb, because I'm an asshole and I like to make my mark on all my instruments to make them look unique. Whether or not they look good, I just like making things look like I want them to look, so I can have it as like sort of my own kind of thing. But yeah, no, in terms of the actual build quality of the kit was amazing. You can definitely tell that, you know, time was taken to build, you know, these parts. From what I remember, is a steam bent rim, so it's really smooth and really sort of solid, and it feels light. It's a lot lighter than my other banjo. Like, I'd wager it's about, you know, a third to a quarter of the weight of my current banjo. That might be because my other banjo has a metal rim, it has an aluminium rim. Oops. You know, it's light, but it's also robust, so I feel like I could take this travelling with me without having too much of an issue. I probably wouldn't take it travelling that much if I'm going to go to, like, you know, anywhere too far off, because the only downside with goatskin is that humidity can loosen it, so the bridge can sink in slightly, making your action lower. And the opposite can happen in what's the opposite of humid? In very dry environments, the skin can tighten. which isn't too much of an issue. You can just sort of buy different sized bridges and sort of compensate for it, but I'm really happy with how it holds its tune as well. Like, I've never had a good opinion of friction tuners, because I used to sort of fuck around on my old sitar. I wasn't very good at it, admittedly, but the friction tuners on that didn't stay in tune for any more than 10 minutes, whereas these friction tuners have pretty much stayed in tune overnight. Even when I've had the radiator on for an hour or so and heated my room up a lot, because my insects are in there and they need a decent amount of heat, so I'll sort of blast the radiator enough for about an hour a day to sort of maintain that sort of heat. It does mean the heat sort of goes up and down a lot. But even through that, these tuners and the actual build of the banjo itself has held its tuning fantastically. It's completely changed my perspective of friction tuners, so I've never liked them until now. But these friction tuners are really, really nice. There's a lot of friction in, they stick in the head really well, and they hold their place really well. I've never had them like sort of turn the other way after I finished, turning them. One thing I could have done better is I could have been a little bit more sort of precise and accurate when sort of trimming the head around here, because if you look there it's very uneven, but I kind of like that, and yes, it was a mistake and I should have spent more time trimming it, but I feel like mistakes and blemishes have character, and so I'm going to leave it like that, because that's the way I did it and that's the way I want it to stay, because I just like that sort of character. It was a lot easier to tack these in than you'd think, because there was already pre-drilled holes to push these in. Word of advice, don't try and push them in with your thumb, because you will really, really hurt your fingers doing it. That was my own stupid fault. I couldn't find like a small hammer, and you generally don't want to hammer them in because you can flatten them, and if you have them go in too much, you won't be able to pull them out if you're ever going to change the skin. So if you do get one of these, I've sort of got them in so there's like a 0.5 millimeter sort of gap between the actual tack and the hoop, because in future, if anything happens to this drum head, like if it ever gets split or anything, or it breaks, I want the opportunity to change it. I don't want to like have to, I don't want to fuck myself over by having, I don't want to have like tacks that I can't ever get at, because that's just going to be a nightmare. So just to compare it to my Washburn BJ2 with a non-frosted head here, it's a little bit shorter, a little bit sort of small. I think there's like an inch difference in the scale length. This has got a 24.5 inch scale. I think this is 25.5. So they're 25 or 25.5. But the scale length is it's not too different. It's not different enough to be jarring when you switch from one banjo to the other. I was a little bit concerned initially about adjusting to having no frets, because obviously there's no frets to tell where all the notes are, except for these here. The fifth fret is here where this string starts. 7th fret is here, the 10th is here, and the 12th is here. So that's where your harmonics are. And I actually found it a lot easier to adjust to the having no frets than I initially thought. And also because it has no frets, if you do play slightly sharp or flat, you can slide it really easily, like just sort of go like that. It's kind of like tuning in a way, but it's a lot easier to sort of get used to the having no frets than it was initially. It's got a really nice tone as well. Like, you can vary it a lot, because like if you play down here, you can get a much more percussive sound, but if you play here where the neck scoop is, you get a much more mellow, darker sound. And a lot of that is because this drum is tuned more sort of like more around like a floor tom to a kick drum kind of pitch, whereas this, it's more of a snare drum. I think that head's tuned to G sharp, although I'm probably dead wrong on that. I haven't got a clue what what tightness that is. I haven't got a drum tuner for it. I'll just do it until it sounds nice. So in comparison, this sounds very dark, very mellow, very plunky, and sort of quieter as compared to your sort of standard modern style banjo. But yeah, I cannot recommend this enough. For $175 for this kit, you really can't go wrong. Like, I'll wager that if you fuck up building this kit, you're going out on your way to fuck this up, because I've got pretty much zero experience building and assembling instruments. I built a cigar box mandolin for one of my exes a few years ago, and even with a professional woodworker's help and someone who builds guitars help, I fucked that up massively. The fretboard was terrible, it didn't play well, the action was bad. I really screwed it up. Whereas this, because I screw up pretty much everything I try and build because I've got no patience. But with this, I found it was very hard to screw anything up with it. Like, obviously there was the issue there with the unevenness of the trimming of the head there, but I like that. It sort of adds another sort of rustic sort of character to it. But people talking outside. But yeah, no, like pretty much every part of this kit was like really high quality, and I'm going to be playing this for hours today now. I've been playing it for a few days, and the reason this video has taken so long is just because I've been playing it so much. And I'm definitely going to try and get another one when I can afford it. Carver Banjos also offers Appalachian style mountain banjos, cello banjos in 5 and 6 string models, gourd banjos, Americana style banjos, which are kind of like a middle ground between these and these, in the sense that they have frets and a more sort of modern style head, as opposed to this swirly scroll thing. I like this scroll though. I think it's a really nice sort of, it's smooth, it's curvy, I like it. Yeah, I can't recommend this kit enough. If any of you want to delve into the world of like a sort of, you know, old-time minstrel banjo, then I can't recommend it enough. And if anyone wants to dip their toes into like fretless old-time banjo, then I think the Carver Minstrel Banjo kit is a fantastic place to start, because like it's cheaper than most beginner banjos you can buy. Like most beginner banjos I've seen like can start at like £250, like $300, whereas this for $175 it's an absolute steal. Like it's I can't see like the fact that the kit is so cheap, but it's so high quality when it's finally built. It's great. Obviously, it's still subjective to who builds it. You know, you could do a really bad job of it if you rushed it and did it all in a day and you didn't take your time doing it. But you know, otherwise, you know, I see no cons with this kit in the slightest. You know, there are adjustments that you could make to make it more specific to you, like filing down the nut a little bit, but I find that because the strings are so loose, the height of the nut doesn't matter as much. Same with the bridge. So yeah, if any of you are considering getting a minstrel style banjo, then Carver Minstrel Banjos, like the kit, is definitely the place to go. I'll link to the Carver Banjo site in the description of this. And yeah, I'm going to do a sound test on an Audio Technica 80-2020 to sort of show a more sort of detailed representation of the sound now.